And what we're going to be doing is a 25% tariff.
Boeing, big disappointment to me. Big disappointment.
On May 7th, 2025, an announcement from Washington sent shockwaves through the global aviation industry. In a move that experts are calling unprecedented in modern trade policy, former President Donald Trump declared the immediate imposition of a 25% tariff on all imported aircraft components and a sweeping 145% tariff on goods from China. The decision was framed as a bold step to protect American skies and American jobs. However, within hours, the financial markets, airline executives, and longtime allies of the United States reacted with alarm. Could this aggressive measure inadvertently cripple one of America's most iconic industries? Could Boeing withstand the ripple effects? Stay with us as we investigate the full scope of this extraordinary development and its potential consequences for American aviation. The announcement itself was delivered with characteristic bluntness. At a press conference in front of a backdrop of American-made aircraft, Donald Trump addressed the from the Peterson Institute for International Economics warned that these tariffs could cause significant cost increases for U.S. manufacturers. The aviation sector operates on complex, globally integrated supply chains. Disruptions at this level have the potential to create widespread production delays and financial strain, one analyst noted. Trump likely did not anticipate the magnitude of the chain reaction his signature would unleash. Yet, as the next hours would show, the fallout began almost immediately. In the following segment, we examine how U.S. businesses, starting with Boeing, responded to the new reality. The reaction from Boeing's executive offices in Chicago was swift but internally divided. CEO Kelly Ortberg, who had previously voiced cautious optimism about Trump's protectionist leanings, now faced the most difficult challenge of his tenure. Only months earlier, Ortberg had told Reuters, "Boeing is the ultimate American company, built here, exported globally." He had assumed the administration's tariff strategy would target foreign-built competitors, not Boeing's deeply integrated global supply network. Within hours of the announcement, Ortberg convened an emergency board meeting. Boeing's leadership reviewed the immediate implications: soaring costs for landing gear assemblies from Canada, electronic systems from Japan, and precision avionics from Germany. The scale of exposure was alarming. Boeing's internal estimates suggested that the tariffs would increase the cost of each aircraft by as much as $3 million, a figure that could severely undermine contracts with both domestic and international buyers. Ortberg and his team began urgently lobbying members of Congress for an exemption, arguing that Boeing's unique role in the U.S. economy and national defense warranted special consideration. Meanwhile, airlines across the globe began reassessing their procurement plans. Ryanair, Europe's largest low-cost carrier and one of Boeing's largest customers, suspended its next round of jet deliveries, citing material changes in commercial terms directly resulting from U.S. tariffs. The domino effect continued. A major Turkish airline requested a pricing reevaluation. A Latin American carrier delayed payments, and an African state-owned airline paused all negotiations. Each action signaled a deepening crisis. Next, We will look at how these corporate decisions translated into tangible consequences for American workers and local communities. While Boeing's leadership scrambled to stabilize global contracts, the first and most immediate victims of the tariff-induced turmoil were closer to home. Across Boeing's vast domestic manufacturing network, uncertainty quickly turned to hardship. In Charleston, South Carolina, overtime was abruptly cut at the Dreamliner assembly plant. In Wichita, Kansas, engineers were instructed to urgently source U.S.-made alternatives for components previously imported from tariff countries, many of which had no domestic substitutes. The supply chain disruption soon rippled beyond Boeing's facilities. Small and mid-sized suppliers, often highly dependent on consistent Boeing contracts, were among the first to suffer. A longtime wing component manufacturer in Texas laid off over 100 workers within a week of the tariffs being enacted. A cabin interior supplier in Arizona announced an indefinite temporary closure, citing severe market instability. In Missouri, a metal fabrication company with decades of Boeing partnership was forced to shut down 2 production shifts, leaving hundreds unemployed. Local economies that had grown around these manufacturing hubs began to feel the strain. Housing markets softened, and small businesses catering to Boeing employees, cafes, grocery stores, and auto repair shops reported dramatic drops in daily sales. One Wichita business owner was quoted saying, "It's like someone turned off the tap overnight." According to preliminary estimates from the Economic Policy Institute, the cascading effects of the tariffs could threaten tens of thousands of U.S. aerospace jobs if left unresolved. As painful as the domestic fallout was, the consequences did not stop at America's borders. In the next section, we will explore how global markets and foreign governments reacted to this sweeping shift in U.S. trade policy. The global aviation community was quick to respond. European officials were the first to voice their concerns, viewing the U.S. tariffs as an aggressive and destabilizing move. The European Union issued a formal statement condemning the measures as economic sabotage and swiftly prepared a $100 billion retaliatory tariff package. For the first time, Boeing's passenger jets were included on Europe's list of targeted products, an action previously considered too extreme to contemplate. France and Germany led the diplomatic charge, warning that if no compromise was reached by July, Boeing aircraft would face additional duties of up to 25%. The announcement sent tremors through the financial markets and put further strain on Boeing's already fragile international contracts. The shockwaves extended beyond Europe. A key avionics supplier in Germany halted production pending clarification of the tariff landscape. In Japan, an electronics manufacturer withdrew from a long-term agreement with Boeing, citing unacceptable commercial instability. Canada, normally a steady aerospace partner, suspended shipments of critical landing gear assemblies. China, facing its own set of U.S. tariffs, also responded strategically. State-owned aerospace firm COMAC accelerated its efforts to offer steep discounts on its C919 jet to attract global buyers. Reports indicated that Brazil's Embraer, having failed to finalize a merger with Boeing, seized the moment to re-engage African and South American carriers. Airlines across the world grew cautious. Emirates reportedly reopened discussions with Airbus for additional A350 aircraft. Air India requested revised price quotes from both Boeing and Airbus, signaling deep market uncertainty. The international backlash placed Boeing in an increasingly vulnerable position. In the next section, we examine what the future could hold if these conditions persist. As the dust settled from the initial wave of reactions, a sobering reality began to take shape. America's long-standing dominance in the global aviation market was under serious threat. Internally, Boeing's financial forecasts turned dire. In a closed-door meeting with investors, Boeing's finance chief reportedly warned that if the tariffs remained in place through year-end, the company could face a revenue decline of up to 10%. Additional retaliation from China, one of Boeing's largest markets, could potentially double that figure. Industry analysts expressed growing concern. The aviation sector relies on highly integrated international supply chains, and attempts to isolate production within U.S. borders were, in many cases, logistically and economically unfeasible. There is simply no domestic substitute for certain rare earth elements and specialty components currently sourced abroad, noted an analyst from the Aerospace Industries Association. Meanwhile, Airbus quietly consolidated its market position, capitalizing on Boeing's turmoil. The European manufacturer stepped up its outreach to global carriers, offering attractive financing terms and delivery guarantees unaffected by geopolitical disputes. Even COMAC, once considered a distant challenger, made notable gains in emerging markets by presenting itself as a stable alternative. Domestically, the mood shifted from frustration to apprehension. U.S. airlines, including United, Delta, and FedEx, issued urgent calls to Congress for relief, warning of potential ticket price hikes, higher cargo fees, and ultimately job losses if the tariff standoff continued. Boeing's leadership found itself navigating an impossible dilemma: lower prices to retain customers and risk devastating losses, or hold firm and watch longtime clients migrate to competitors. Next, we will conclude by examining the broader implications of this unfolding crisis. The scale of the unfolding crisis has left industry leaders, policymakers, and global markets grappling with difficult questions. Boeing, once the undisputed symbol of American aerospace dominance, now faces a future clouded by uncertainty. The combination of domestic supply chain disruptions, international retaliation, and escalating competition has exposed the vulnerability of even the most established players in a volatile global economy. As of now, President Trump's administration remains firm. In a recent statement, Trump asserted, "We are protecting American skies. If Boeing cannot adapt, someone else will." That someone, increasingly, may be Airbus or China's COMAC. The question now remains, can Boeing, and by extension, the U.S. aerospace sector, adapt swiftly enough to retain its global standing? Or has a single policy decision triggered a permanent shift in the balance of power? We will continue to monitor this evolving story and report the latest developments in our upcoming videos.